welcome to Skill Tree, where we learn how to do just about everything. Now, over the past couple of weeks, we've had some really exciting news, all to do with the company Burgschneider. They sell a bunch of amazing equipment if you're into like LARP or reenactment. All of it is really great. And in partnership with them, we've been able to get our community a 15% discount on everything in their store using SkillTree15 at checkout. Not only that, but they've also partnered with us to give an additional 30% discount on select items if you participate in the Level Up LARP competition. A competition which will send one of you with us to Germany to the largest LARP event in the world, Conquest. So with all of that happening, which is a lot happening, I'm really excited about it. And the holidays right around the corner, I thought it would be a lot of fun just to have kind of a low-key episode today and actually talk with some people from Burgschneider. Basically get a feel for like what Conquest is about and get really hyped up to go. Because again, one of you who participate in our Level Up LARP competition is coming with us. Now, of course, I haven't been yet before, so I can't really talk about it except for like what I've seen on previews. But our guest today can. Look at us, having guests on Skill Tree. We're getting up in the world, huh? So allow me to introduce you to our guests today, Bale and Emma. So yeah, why don't you say hi, just tell the nice people about yourselves for a second here. I know you work for Burgschneider. You've been our main contact so far, Bale, who's been kind of helping us set this whole thing up.
I mean, we can go back and it starts all the way with Reckoning, actually. It was kind of like, they had a great time, then they're like, then there was this asshole who just like stabbed our friend, and I'm like, oh no. I'm that asshole.
You are. 100. That's how I introduced you to people. I was like, here's that asshole who slit my friend's throat. No, but that 100% made the game for me. Like, that was so much fun. It was the most fun I had that entire time. So yeah, thank you for that. That and the repeat where you were just the straight up jerk who came to our game.
It's so funny that scene kind of turned out the way it was, because I remember thinking to myself before we walked into that scene, like, how do I want to play this character? Since I'm filming so much of the event, and that was my main focus during the event, was actually to film it, which is actually what Emma does as well. We both film LARP events. It's part of our jobs here at Burgschneider.
That's such a cool job.
We kind of will jump in and play almost like NPC roles. We'll kind of fill in spaces to help the game along. And in this case, it was kind of come in and stir the pot. I thought, man, there's no better way of doing that than make yourself a villain.
So you just mentioned like that's what you do with Burgschneider, and I kind of wanted to loop in, the fact that we've got this incredible contest going on where someone's actually going to get a chance to come and attend Conquest, the largest LARP in the world, and we also have all this stuff going on with Burgschneider. So I just kind of want to tie these two things together. Where does Burgschneider fall with the whole Conquest thing?
It takes a little bit of explaining, since Berkshire Group is kind of a larger company in regard to kind of how many different pieces that kind of come together to make Berkshire Group. So we have Burgschneider, which is clothing, costuming, and kind of everything that it takes to show up to a LARP event or to do cosplay and to feel confident and kind of have that canvas to create your character. Some years back, we actually had the chance to bring live adventure into kind of our group, right, into our family. And Live Adventure's largest live action role-playing company in the world, based here in Germany, and they put on Conquest of Mythodia. So Conquest is the largest LARP in the world, which it's hard to kind of put that into context sometimes. So there's a couple ways that I try to do that. The first is there are 10,000 players at Conquest. And within the 10,000 players, there are 2,000 NPCs that play NPCs the entire breadth of the event.
So, the things that we've been throwing in the contest, you guys straight up have the clout to be like, yes, you and you come, and you're going to have fun, and we'll make sure of it. So 10,000 people, how does one even orchestrate 10,000 people to come to an event? That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's only the largest event of Live Adventure.
Yeah.
So we have 3 to 4, three.
Three, and there'll be 4 next year.
Yeah. Almost.
Oh,
4.
we got some inside scoops. Oh no.
Who are like similar, not as big, but like I think the next big, like the second biggest one is Chronicles.
It is, and it's between 4,000 and 6,000 each year.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So I kind of wanna really hone in and get people a little bit jazzed. Like, I'm super jazzed. We've been talking about kind of what Conquest is, and I've never been more excited about anything in my entire life. So if you could just kind of explain like what's the story behind Conquest? What's happening at this event?
This is it can be a challenging.
It's a big question.
it can be a challenging question because of a couple different aspects. One is that Conquest is not a universe in the sense that you have to come into the game with a character that is specifically designed for Conquest. Conquest is actually designed, is part of the world of Mythodia, so it's Conquest of Mythodia, and Mythodia is a bit of a catch-all in the sense that you can bring any character concept to Conquest. How this works is in the story of Conquest, the lore of it per se, there is this fog that permeates the edges of the world, and outside of that, no one knows what's there, but there is this one particular shady organization called the Crimson Company that ferries people through the fog. And where those people come from, sometimes they don't remember, sometimes they do remember, sometimes they can give you pieces and bits of information about that time before they came to Mythodia. But by and large, once they come there, they're kind of entering into it with almost a blank slate of their abilities. They're kind of having to refine their feet. So a new player might kind of explore what it's like to be in that world and to see what is possible as maybe a character they've played in other events and see how they can express that in Mythodia. And this is done through a lot of really cool mechanics that the game is designed to allow people to flesh out a character, to experience it by way of experimenting with other people, of what they're willing to accept as existing within the world. And this is a pretty normal concept in German LARP. There's a German acronym for it. Du
kannst, was du darstellen kannst.
Boom, and that'll answer the next question.
It rolls right off the tongue
too.
It's
German
good.
To come here. No. But in English, we might call it WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. And how that works
That's
is
really
like
cool.
Yeah. So how that works is you can basically express something and do something. And there's two rules. One is you never go into that experience with someone expecting something. And for the person on the other side of receiving that moment of role play, it's always you must interact with it. You must have some kind of reaction. But what that reaction is completely up to you. So if someone shows up to the world and goes, "I am the king of all of you. I am the king." Emma's response could be,
"Oh yeah, hail the king, the almighty king."
Or it could be,
"Okay, cool story, bro."
because honestly, depending on how well I play it out, that may be the way that it goes.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I can roll up there and be like, "I'm the king," and there's everybody around me. I've just become the crazy person in the town. And everyone's
That's
like,
exactly it.
all hail the king.
But if you were to show up, let's say, with a proper outfit as a king, with a whole entourage around you of people who are clearly invested in the story of you as the king, well, then you're probably a king.
Exactly. Like if you find a way to portray it so that people believe it, then you will be able to play that role.
Exactly. And this works with magic and with fighting and with all sorts of different things.
That's really cool. I really want to circle back to that idea, and I think it goes kind of in hand with the contest that we're running right now, because one of the main questions that I keep getting are like, what should my theme be around? Like, what is going on with there? Should I build it around? And I love the thought that almost like in the Witcher universe, right, where there's this thing that happens where people and creatures and things from other worlds are able to jump in there. So it's really like, I don't know, what are you into? Be that. Just be it convincingly. Like, be that, right?
Absolutely.
Don't just throw something together. I love that.
That's
I think
a good
that
way
is
of putting
really
it, actually.
Cool.
It's anything is possible. The more convincing you are, the better time you're going to have at portraying that character to its fullest.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So is there an overarching story, or is everybody just kind of showing up and being like, I am this, play with me, right?
So the overarching story of Conquest is effectively this, that all of these people have kind of come from different worlds, let's say, and they've found this unified world of Mythodia. And on Mythodia, for the last 13 years, or 15 years now, actually, thanks COVID, we've been playing on this continent called Mitrospira. And it's not the only landmass. In fact, at the bottom of the map, there's a bit of land that we don't know entirely what's south of that.
Ooh, plot later.
Yeah, we'll have to see. But I can say that you're going to find out in the upcoming events as the world begins to expand.
Exciting.
That story of what this world is comes down to an interesting series of juxtapositions and dichotomies. The one is the idea of the elements. So we have air, fire, earth, wind, chaos, and order. And each of these is represented by a group that is from Mythodia, or from Mythosphere originally, and then kind of the mirror of them, you could say, in a kind of spiritual sense. So you have the NPC groups then that are both good and bad. And it's where the bad NPCs come in, where Mythodia starts to get really interesting, because we have obviously the largest NPC army in the world, which is the Undead Flesh, Untotes Fleisch, and they are something to behold.
Yeah, the video, you've shown me little clips. I'll have a clip playing here showing that. It's the scale of these two armies coming at each other is absolutely mind-blowing.
It is, it definitely
it's
is.
Incredible. That must be something to behold, like, in person. Like, that's absolutely awe-inspiring.
It's actually
Very
kind of
cool.
frightening standing like on that battlefield, and even if you're not part of either of the armies, because usually I'm just standing there with my camera.
Yeah.
But still, I'm like, okay, I don't want to be on this other side of either side of those parties, just like clashing into each other. It looks very terrifying.
Yeah, think about a half-kilometer long battle line.
Yeah.
And this is what you're gonna see.
Man, even like the only experiences I've had have been really small, and it's so easy to get really lost in the character and get super invested. Like we had what you would consider stupid small skirmishes, like a whole army like that. You must get so lost in those moments, right?
Yeah.
Being able to live those kind of adventure moments you see in a movie or something, where you're like, no, that's what it feels like to have a line of 10,000 people coming at me. Like it's intense.
It is,
right?
and it's also amazing to see how kind of real it can feel in those moments. I mean, there's this great study that was done into simulated experiences versus real experiences. And the chemical response that's made in the body to a well-simulated experience is the same as experiencing it for real. So you have this saying we say, like, hold the line, and we're supposed to keep that nice straight line. And because what actually happens is when an army starts to move, the people on the edges, realizing there's not anyone on this side to protect me, they start to kind of move in a little, and they kind of like, oh, and they start to fold in, and that actually is what we see from historical accounts of what actually happened with battle lines. And we're actually seeing that at Conquest. We actually see people have this kind of reaction. So fear and love and pain and drama, those are all experiences that, although simulated through the lens of LARP, can feel extremely real.
Oh, I love that. I'm so excited. So, all right, let's backtrack a little bit more then. I'm brand new coming into this, right? Somebody else is going to be coming with us, brand new coming into this. What is the new player's experience? Because I imagine this could be real overwhelming real fast, right? So, like, what do you do for like a new player coming in to make sure that they feel comfortable and invited into it and like they can play?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's one that in the past, we've had a hard time trying to figure out the perfect way to do this, and this year is our first year of really undertaking a new initiative to improve this. And it's actually going to be you guys and the person who wins the Level Up LARP Challenge that are actually going to be part of this, and maybe some more people that will join in as well. What that looks like is effectively, we have that Crimson Company we talked about, that group that are this, a good real-world analogy for the history buffs out there would be the East India Trading Company. And they're this nefarious kind of faceless organization, and they're bringing you in, but it's not for free. They want something in return, and you owe them a debt. Now, in some ways, when you enter a game, sometimes people try to kind of fix you into a position pretty early. But with the Crimson Company, the idea is that the group that you're starting in, you hate. You hate them. The Crimson Company is asking you to do all of these things that you don't want to do. Yeah. They're asking you to maybe go do some shady stuff, or to collect money for them, or to go do these silly quests. And actually, those experiences not only introduce you into different aspects of the game, but help you to meet allies who might also feel the same about the Crimson Company that you do. And those allies then can be people that you then enjoy playing the game with outside of the Crimson Company. And it helps to integrate you into the game in an organic manner. And by the end of the first couple days, depending on how you want to play things out, maybe day one you say like, screw the Crimson Company. I'm not doing this for them. Well, they might decide to hunt you down then. So maybe the rest of the week, you've got to play the idea of being chased down by these guys. Or
Right.
perhaps
you're at a
work on
bar
those
just looking over your
quests.
shoulder like, you guys don't know me, right? Like,
Just
in
completely
costume.
hood up every time you walk by them, having to worry about it? Absolutely. The other side is you could
That's
decide
cool.
maybe I want to complete these and pay off my debt. And I want to get this off
Right.
my plate and not have to worry about it. Well, then you can do it that way. You can also decide maybe you just really like the Crimson Company and you decide you also want to be a shady character. Maybe there's a little bit of play in that for you as well. And any of these directions
feel called
integrate
out.
you into the game.
Yeah, I tend to go towards those shady characters. It might be something about myself that I need to explore further. I don't know.
LARP is always this great experience of picking a part of myself I like or don't like, accentuating it, and getting a chance to experience it.
And also like exploring parts of yourself that you didn't even like know you had in you. Like
Yeah.
it's like a very like a safe space
It is.
to just go and do things you normally would never do, and just see what happens with it.
I hope I wouldn't just randomly slit some throat at a tavern, but who knows?
Just
now?
cuz.
Who knows?
And be a total jerk about it afterwards too. No, I actually just read something about that recently, though. How a lot more like in therapy sessions, they're using things like LARP and D&D
They
because
are.
it does enter you into that really safe space to explore things that you normally wouldn't feel comfortable exploring as somebody else, which is
Absolutely.
really cool. It's one of my favorite parts of D&D, honestly.
Absolutely.
So, in this world, so let's say I've decided to run away from the company and I'm being hunted.
Yeah.
Somebody finds me. Hunt success. What is combat like? Like what is this? Because you and I had discussed this idea that you guys do in the German LARP that we don't, at least from what I've seen, there's not a lot of it in the US, where it's very cinematic. You're not just trying to be as fast as you can and wail on people. It is very much like you're setting up these epic blows and these really cool movements, and it almost like you pace it so people can have time to respond and have a really cool looking fight, right?
Absolutely.
So if you can kind of elaborate on that, I love that idea.
The way that combat at Conquest works is, although my true physical speed and my athleticism does play an effect, I'm instead allowing roleplay to be done as my character would do combat. So I create big epic swings in order to allow the other person to have an opportunity to parry it or to create a
Dodge
combination.
roll out of the way
or in some
something,
cases,
right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Or in some cases, just get hit. I had this great story of a experience just like this. A guy that I know in real life is actually a fantastic fencer. But at Conquest, he plays a character who is largely incapable of fighting. And really is kind of bad at it, but he's really big into experiencing things and learning, and he kind of plays this very inquisitive character.
Okay.
And he found himself in a situation where one of the undead said, if you fight honorably, we will not slaughter your friends. And he was like, okay. And the undead guy handed him this big battle axe. He picked it up and went like, "Ah," and just fell backwards. And like it just weighs too much for him.
it's just too heavy.
You know,
Yeah.
that's a, you know, and so he falls over and then he picks it up, and as he's picking it up, you know, he's making these big swings and falling over, and he's incapable of fighting. In the same way, I know people who actually are professional football players. You know,
Yeah,
our friend Philip is a great example of this. Philip is a professional football player. Philip could legitimately pick up half of that field and run across the field with them on his shoulders. But he will swing with a big cinematic arc to his swings, or he'll create big epic moments so that somebody like Emma, who is maybe like 3.5 feet shorter than Philip, can still parry that and have a great dialogue through combat. And this is the way that combat is designed. From a mechanic standpoint also, combat is designed in a way that you don't have hit points, you don't have levels, you don't have classes. Instead, you have basically, again, what you see is what you get. If Emma's hit, she has to play it out.
Exactly, and another thing that kind of plays into that, I think, is there's this rule like what you see is what you get, but there's also kind of another mechanic that is like playing in to lift other people up. And it's like, so if someone wants to portray that like talented or like skilled warrior, then allowing him that space to kind of
Embody that character.
embody that character and lift his performance up in like with the way you react to it. So yeah.
I love that. It's almost to me like that. The small experiences I've had with it, and a lot with D&T too. It's almost like that hook moment where it's like play with us, right? Like when someone comes in and plays the game with you, and they're picking up what you're putting down. You have those little moments of communication, like, all right, I'm gonna come in real hard, like just dodge it. Right?
Yes.
Like making those moments and almost performative. Other people are watching.
Yes.
Right? So they're watching this thing, and it's
Absolutely.
Just, the more epic you can make it is so much fun.
Yeah.
I love that. That's really cool. So now, for people who maybe like don't have any interest in combat, I know in the last LARP I went to, there are some people just that's not their thing. They don't want anything to do with it. Are there other avenues if you are not interested in combat while you're there? What other stuff can you get into? Is there like mercantile? Is there like Game of Thrones-esque drama going on, or can you be just a thief? Like what can you do?
So I think at Conquest there's like many opportunities to have all kinds of play. For example, there's the truss, which is kind of the city or the marketplace of the world, and that's basically like merchants, and it's like streets where you can walk around and just have different shops with different things where you can just kind of go shopping and kind of go into play with those, like with the merchants as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. The other really interesting thing is how much the truss plays into the story of the event. Since the truss is this idea of this moving encampment that goes with the armies.
Exactly.
So everything can be found there. Everything from a guy to shine your boots, to a man to repair your armor. Hundreds of vendors, hundreds of opportunities for food, multiple big taverns. But then also, anytime that you have a lot of people gathering, you will have the underworld. You will have that seedy underbelly of society. And this is absolutely part of Conquest. In fact, there's an entire group of people that come to Conquest and they never step foot on the battlefield. And their entire play is connected to the thieves and the gangs and the trade that happens in the underworld within the truss. And this is an extensive game. Of course, there's no crime in Mythodia and no crime in the truss. No one's ever heard of a shadow guild of any kind. Never.
It's unheard of. A nice place like that. Never.
Never. And there's definitely not back rooms where really big poker games and parties happen that you can maybe get invited to if you're a special kind of seedy character. And there's definitely not entire bars and places of communication and trade between between merchants. There's definitely not a seedy underbelly of where the merchants might do trade. That's definitely not a thing either. But you never know what you might find wandering around the streets of the truss at night.
And if you wander around the truss and hear a rumor, maybe kind of trace it back to its origin and see what you can find.
Do a little follow-up and have a little adventure for yourself. I love the idea of these little underbelly things, like you screw with a merchant, you think you're being a smart ass or something like that, and you walk away, and all of a sudden there's like a Thieves Guild on your ass because they've been hired to be like, no, him, get him.
Oh, that most definitely
Fantastic.
Doesn't happen at all.
Oh no, that's terrible.
Never. But there's also the other end of things that's not in the truss. There's an entire area of the Hospitaliers, the healers, and they have a guild. And there's multiple guilds throughout the truss actually, but this one in particular doesn't do combat because healing is such an important part of the game. If you're playing a game in which you're really kind of role-playing combat, you also role-play the damage you take, which means you need healers, and healers are a huge part of Conquest and a huge part of the world of Mythodia.
And also artists. There's like a whole section of the truss that's just devoted to artists and their shops and their play.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is actually physical artists. You have actually sketch artists who will come out and draw rapid form sketches of people on the battlefield. And they're absolutely beautiful pieces that people create. And all of this is possible and available. Everything from merchants to healers. There's even a guy who is I believe he's a chemist in real life, and he built a massive medieval chemistry set and plays an alchemist.
That's so dope.
And it's so cool. Seriously, one of the coolest characters is this alchemist. And I think his name is Flame something, and it's, oh man.
So it really sounds like whatever you want to be, you can bring it into this game and just
Absolutely.
have full game doing this thing you love.
Absolutely.
I think that, that's definitely like one of the basic
Tenants.
tenets of the whole event is just be who you want to be.
Yeah.
That's really, that's so much fun. So, okay, you've kind of touched on a little bit with like the bar scene and stuff, but like I've noticed a really large part of LARP is that not out of game time, because you're still in game, but you're not actively doing quests or whatever. It's the social time. It's going to bars or whatever. What is that kind of culture like at Conquest?
German.
Enough said. So someone's brain could go into a few different places with that. There's like Lederhosen and Wiederschnitzel over here, or there's like Red Light District over here. Where on the spectrum?
Yes, so yeah, totally. And to be honest, Conquest is definitely the spectrum between those as well.
It's the spectrum.
Like, absolutely. I think that's the best part. So I think one of the coolest things I love about Conquest, and I love filming it at Conquest as well, is there are multiple different large taverns, and we're talking like hundreds of people in these taverns, and there is singing and dancing and revelry, and you have the different groups coming in, and you might have a little argument over whose table is that nearest the bar, or you might have a group come in and just start a bar fight in character, start this bar fight, and have these great experiences. And then you of course have maybe the non-existent underbelly who's paid to maybe make sure that bar doesn't have too many bar fights. Now you have to worry about those guys. There's this whole huge culture of it. There's also a culture that's also really fantastic, which is Tsubo culture. This idea of these large communal hot tubs. It's a very German concept of everybody like getting into a big tub together and having some drinks. And it's actually right on the edge of one of these big taverns where you can literally open the curtain of your big communal hot tub, which is all still in character. It's made of wood. It's wood burning fire that's heating it. And so cool. Have a waiter come up to you and offer you drinks, and then to have the whole party out in front of you inside of this tavern, and for bards to be standing next to it playing, and just this big communal epic experience. And these things are happening constantly. It is never a bad time to be partying at Conquest.
So I love just everything about this, and part of it starting this channel was it was very Skyrim themed to begin with, because I spent so much time lost in these little games, but I never felt like I actually got to experience any of that stuff. Like I spend forever grinding away on some skill, but I never actually I leave the game and it's gone.
Yeah.
This is like that. I get to have those experiences that's why we play these games and stuff, because you want to see what it's like to be in that world and kind of role play it out, but you actually get to. Like, that's so crazy.
You do, yeah.
I love that.
I think one of the really amazing things about being in a world that really gives 360-degree immersion is that as many things exist in the real world find their way into the game. And everything from the richest of the rich to the lowest of the low, both kings and beggars, they can all be found there.
So, like, we've talked about some of the experiences you can have kind of not out of game, but like more just your character's downtime, let's say. So, like, I don't know, spill a little bit of tea here. What's like the craziest, full stop craziest thing you've seen there? I mean, just go to town. What's been the most memorable, intense experience you've had out of
Oh man, that's a great question.
For me, it's overall things like just the Orcs, for example, like the Orcs as a group.
Yeah.
Like, I hope we can show a bit of footage of them too, because like those guys' costumes and their role play, everything, their camps,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah. I've seen a little bit of that footage. The Orcs look genuinely terrifying.
Yeah. And it's even more terrifying if you end up in their camp.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like that's not where like regular human folks should be.
Oh man, I think I'll kind of a small story before I go on to a couple other ones, but like I do actually have a great experience of being in the Orc camp during a point in which there were some humans who came in, and they were trying to kind of negotiate about something, and I didn't really follow along because the Orcs are speaking in Orcish and there's a translator translating into common tongue, and as it kind of progressed, all of a sudden this one troll character stands up and starts screaming, I couldn't understand what he's saying, and I hear from a guy who was translating to me, goes like, he's angry that his food won't stop talking. and this guy is just like horrified, like when he gets the translation, and he immediately is like, okay, let's get out of here. And it was this
maybe
great
this isn't
moment.
going well.
It was so great, and I had a hard time not kind of having a little moment of laughter, but also being horrified because this guy was really angry. His food wouldn't shut the hell up.
I love that. I love that RP. I remember actually once you shared a story where I think the army formed thinking that the orcs were going to attack somewhere, but instead they attacked the town. So like the Thieves Guild had to take care of things.
Emma, actually, you were there for that.
Yeah, I filmed that, and
Really?
yes, and so when we're at Conquest, we usually have like these little buttons in our ear. So I think that started out with one of the non-existent hypothetical gangs.
Yeah, of course.
The gangs. There's no gangs.
That don't exist, but like, if they did, they sent
they
like
instigated
a
this.
letter to the Orcs insulting them. And I don't know what they said, but the Orcs didn't take that lightly. So at some point, I was in the truss at that moment, and just through my like earpiece, someone just like started shouting like, "The Orcs are gonna be in the truss in 5 minutes! Run!"
Oh
and
no!
So I ran there with my camera, and then like this horde of Orcs just stormed into the truss, and like they started screaming and looking for the gang members, and started beating up gang members who like appeared on the street, and like when they left, there were just like people lying on the floor, passed out, because of, the Orcs seeking revenge.
They sound wonderful. I cannot wait to see Orcs.
Yeah, and this was the thing for me it was interesting from my perspective because I was on the battlefield watching this battle and going like, oh, the Orcs aren't to be seen. I wonder if they don't have a dog in this fight. Maybe they don't have any reason to be out on this fight. And then I see people running. All of a sudden, there's like a runner coming from the truss, and then I see an entire group of people turn around and run to the truss and leave the battlefield. And I'm like, that's interesting. And then later I found out, no. During the battle, that's when the Orcs were like, no one's in town. Let's go pillage the shit out of it. And they caused some serious drama. A lot of people were just absolutely, turned up after that. They were really key to like go get the Orcs. But it's always funny. You're really feeling strong, like you're gonna take the Orcs on right until you get up to their massive gates in the, in their camp.
Yeah.
And realize like, oh, this is not gonna go the way I intended.
Hey, what are you gonna do? Knock? He's like, hey, can you guys come out, please?
Knock, knock, good orc, sir. I would like to have a discussion. As an arrow just immediately goes through your throat.
No, then, okay. I kind of took over on that one. Did I don't know, Bill? Do you have a story you wanted to kind of share, or is there anything else we want?
I had like a funny one and then a really touching one. I think I'll start with this touching one first because I think it really does encapsulate how people approach Conquest. So death is another thing that's really kind of different in a lot of different LARPs. And Conquest gives players the opportunity to decide when the end of their character comes. So you can decide death is, if you got defeated in battle in some grand way and no one was able to get to you, and you could maybe have a full character death, but only if you've decided this is the direction you want your character's story to go. And since we play to struggle, it's this idea that struggle builds the character's story. If Luke Skywalker hadn't lost his hand, it wouldn't be that epic of a story, would it? Right. So these moments of trials and tribulations build something, and sometimes that also means the end of a character. And I was leaving a battlefield one day, and there was a group of French players, and they were standing around this young knight as he was laying on the ground, and they were all crying. And as I came around to notice what was happening, this knight had died, and he was there surrounded by his family and loved ones as they said goodbye. And they were really feeling this emotion of saying goodbye to this person that they had known and loved. And as they said their farewells, the group of them lifted him onto their shoulders and walked. And and I was touched by it, but then it really hit. Because as the procession went and people stepped aside, I saw behind, carrying his helmet, was his widow, carrying his helmet along to his final resting place. And this hit hard for me. It was this epic moment of really story in the most consolidated, beautiful, most honest way of this idea of life and death, and that the idea of loss, and this idea of role play can be truly like both a cathartic and an emotionally explorative concept. So I really loved that moment. I think it was great.
Actual human moments.
It was.
That's really, really cool. Yeah.
The other one was when I saw an undead flesh dude playing a drum with someone's hand.
That was wandering around someone's hand.
I guess he had lost a drumstick, and he just they'd cut somebody's hand off, so he just was playing with someone's hand.
I love the different aspects you can get. You're like, yeah, on one side, this really touching, beautiful moment of a widow who had lost someone and their friends lost someone they loved. And on this side, there's a corpse playing with somebody's hand. So.
It's absolutely the case. It's really, you do get both. And there is such comedy in some of these moments as well. Some of them are very deep and emotional, and then others just make you laugh. Like a good laugh is always fantastic.
I think it's just really what makes Conquest is just like the sum of all those small little moments that like happen on every corner, and you just walk around the truss or just walk down the street, and you just stumble across like one scene that's gonna turn out to be like the highlight of your whole Conquest.
Yeah,
so
I think it's so true.
Yeah.
I think it's so true, and I definitely have had those moments as well.
That's really cool. Those little vignettes as you pass by of things happening in other people's lives.
Yeah.
I mean, you do that in your daily life too. You just don't think of it in that way because you're not making story, but we're all story, right?
We're all story.
Just make it a good one. So, all right, cool. With that, I guess I want to wrap this up. I won't take up too much more of your time. I know it's late. You guys are over in Germany. So is there kind of parting words? People going to, want to be coming to this event, like why should, especially somebody coming from like the US who this is completely new to us, why should they be excited about this, or why should they really want to go and have this experience?
I think it's really just like what we've been saying throughout. Like when you go there, you can be who you want to be and experience what you want to experience. There is something for everyone. And if you go there and you're a little bit interested in like what LARP is, even if you've never LARPed before, and if you're just there's just like a hint of interest in that hobby and that passion, you're gonna find something there. There's gonna be something there for you.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, I grew up with LARP. LARP is something that I started doing in my teens, and I always had these dreams when I was young about these ideas of fully being immersed in this 360-degree immersive experience of living in that fantasy world. And then as you get older, you think like, okay, that's just like something that I guess I'm just gonna have to leave that to video games, or I'm gonna have to leave that to kind of a glimpse that I get at the Renaissance Fair, or I get to kind of have that maybe in something like in my mind through D&D.
Right.
But then you actually get the chance to do something like Conquest, and you realize like, no, this is alive. Like this is fully real, and I can go in and I can experience it, and I can bring my friends, and I can do this, and it's absolutely accessible to me and to all my friends. And when you come together to do that with people that you enjoy spending time with, it's absolutely magical. And I cannot say enough about how, at least for myself, and I think Emma, for you as well, and for most of the people that I know who've done LARP, it changes the friendships that you have and builds these amazing experiences that you have with those friends, because you get to experience something that you wouldn't just walking on the street day to day. And those experiences bring people close and bring people into a new appreciation of that friendship. And you can't get that in a lot of ways in life anymore. And I think it's really cool that LARP can still do that.
Yeah, no, it's not often you get to engage in glorious battle with your friends. It's
I think like if you do that, you go to jail.
Yeah, normally, but in LARP, You can play
Yeah.
drum with somebody's hands.
You know?
Perfect.
I think so. This means one thing though, Kit. One thing has to happen. You've got to tell
nervous.
us what's that one thing you're hoping to find at Conquest. What's that one thing for
man.
you that you're like, hey man, I want this.
I'm super, man. I'm into the seedy underbelly. I want to be like in it. I want to be a nefarious character who's like in the shadows, but you don't know he's nefarious. I very much want those little seedy moments where you know, like standing in a corner and someone's coming like, all right, this is your mark, go, and they walk away, like the Ocean's 11 type stuff. I love that crap. I've always wanted to do something like that.
Absolutely. The non-existent Thieves Guild has a rather interesting history of creating moments that oftentimes are kind of created and coordinated by hands that are not often seen or noticed. And great moments and great movers and shakers in the world, maybe those in the shadows.
No, I have it all in my head of being like, the action Sherlock Holmes movies,
Yes.
where he's constantly like changing disguises and stuff, like just be someone totally different, go and do a thing, change out of disguise. I love that crap.
You can do that at Conquest. You can absolutely do that. I want to give one more quick story. One of the other really fun stories I had actually was with a group of bards, where we went into this back tent poker game, and we knew that the house at this particular camp, so to speak, the house in the casino sense, had these stamps, and anytime that you had a check with that stamp on it, it was legitimate. So we figured, what's better than stealing the money? It's better to steal the stamp. So we decided we would be a band of troubadours and to go into their camp to play music. I'd like to point out, not all of us played instruments.
Just
but
tuning
you know what?
for hours. Yeah, it's almost right.
It's really, you can really trick people just by kind of humming and you can really get into it, and people, I think, actually won't stop you because they're so embarrassed by you. That's kind of what it comes down to. So you do this, you end up in their camp, and we did this, but we also talked to this other group, and I'll leave them unnamed so they don't get thrown under the bus here, but I said, hey, when you hear us really getting loud with our terrible music, attack the front gate. We need you to be the distraction. So we're singing along, and as we get to the crescendo of our dying cat song, all of a sudden we hear like, oh, everyone to the gates, we're being attacked. And everyone runs off. And as we're playing terribly, we just grab the stamp quickly and we'll go help too at the gates. And then as everyone's fighting off the bandits who are attacking the gates, we just kind of slip off into the weeds and get away.
I want exactly that. I want my gentleman bastards moment. Like, it's perfect. It sounds fantastic.
The thing in our minds was this was like an Ocean's 13 moment. In real life, it was just 6 idiots screeching with other people too embarrassed to ask them to get the hell out of my camp.
They're the same picture. They're the same picture.
Corporate says they're the same.
Yeah. As long as you were successful, we're going to say it was some Ocean's 13 stuff.
It's a beautiful moment for me.
All right, thank you two so much for taking the time to tell us kind of about this awesome event and the opportunity. Like, also, thank you for the opportunity for us to be able to actually have this competition and send somebody to go here. That is just massive. It's going to be such a cool experience for whoever wins this thing. And of course for us, because, we'll be there too.
Absolutely. We're so glad that we're able to do this with you guys. And for us, it's a beautiful opportunity to kind of help people to experience what's possible with LARP, and hopefully to introduce a lot of people to an event that maybe they'll come and visit and enjoy with us in the future.
Cool. All right, well, if you guys liked what you saw here today, definitely check out Conquest. I'm going to put the link down in the description below so you can kind of learn more about it and you can read on it. Also, don't forget to hit me with some of that like it, love, and subscribe if you like what I do here.
We'll do a bye as well.
Bye.
Yeah.
And then we'll walk off. Ready?
You know what?
We'll
before I start
3,
with that thing,
2,
I'll do
1.
2. Oh, they're leaving. No, I'm going to leave too. All right. See ya.
There we go. Yeah, so you can make that work.
Yeah, we'll be like, all right, bye guys, and it's just you guys, or I'll say, real quick, let's just say bye to our, and then you guys are leaving. Like, oh nope, they're leaving. I'm gonna leave too.
Yeah, that's
right.
perfect. That's perfect. Just us walking up like, oh, wait,
No,
we could
bye.
also do the one where we get up and go different directions, and then I go like.